right, welcome aboard, everybody. Another episode of the Manchild Show with Boy Green Digital at MC Show Digital. Hey, like the video on your way and hit that old thumbs up, or there you go, subscribe at MC Show Digital on YouTube and become part of our growing family. We are presented today by our friends at Northeast Roofing Professionals. Today's video brought to you by our friends at Box Drop Syracuse. We'll hear from them in just a little bit. It's time to talk Giants. You see all the blue around us? We go inside the Giants with a guy who used to play on the team. He was a wide receiver. He's also a Super Bowl champion, a Grey Cup champion, digital host at New York Post Sports. Yes, the one, the only. I like him. He's got lots of energy. Brandon London. What's up, Brandon? How are you?
You missed two things. Overall good guy and an amazing father. Overall good guy and amazing father. But I love the intros, man. You guys make me feel important. Appreciate you guys having me back.
It's cool. When I used to work in radio, I was just the program director of one radio station. Then they made me program director of 2 radio stations. Then I started a show, so I was a host and programming too. Then they made me news director. Before you know it, I was content creator. I was in charge of the websites. I was promotions director, sports director. I said, you can't even fit my titles on the door anymore. You've given me so much responsibility. So I know the feeling, Brandon.
Hey, kudos to you, because like we say in the NFL, when you're trying to make a 53-man roster, the more you can do, the more you can do. So this guy can do it all.
Well, let's jump right in. We're 8 days away from the NFL draft. Oh, 9 is thank you. 9, Boy Green. All right. I'm sorry. I'm jumping ahead. I'm just so
that's okay. Yeah,
9 days away from the NFL draft as we record this, Brandon. Let me ask you this very simple question, all right? Because Boy Green and I obviously been talking about the draft a lot. I usually speak of it kind of from a Giants perspective. He's the diehard Jets fan. We break it all down. And we did a little show the other day about what the Giants and the Jets should do in this draft. So I want to ask you a very direct question. If these 3 players were available at 5, which one are you taking if you're the Giants? Jeremiah Love, Sonny Styles, Caleb Downs. Which one you want?
Jeremiah Love, hands down, because I saw something over the weekend when someone posted about how much money the Giants have tied up in their defense already. And for that, I think they're like top 4. I want to say 2, but I know it's top 4 for sure. And when you look at that, if the development of Jackson Dart is such a high on your priority list, you got to get this man a weapon. And I go back and forth with Giants fans all the time. They're like, well, we have a running back in a Cam Scatterboo and a Tyrone Tracy Jr. There are times in the beginning of the season, it took a little bit for Tyrone Tracy Jr. to get going. Cam Scatterboo kind of comes on to the scene. He had a pretty solid, run for the amount of games that he has. But none of those guys in that backfield right now are home run hitters. And we're talking about there's only 2 players in football that touch the ball more than the center, and that's the quarterback and the running back. So instead of having Jackson Dart line up, throw the football 30, 40-something times a game, now you have a chance to have a 3-headed monster in the backfield, all on rookie deals. And you also have you got your bruiser and a Cam Scatterboo. You got your Tyrone Tracy Jr., your hybrid guy that can kind of do it all. Probably your starter and your main back. But then you got this kid, Jeremiah Love, who may touch the ball on the counter tray or a wham and take that thing for 50, 60, or 70. You have to be able to put that type of explosion on the Giants offense. So I love, the Caleb Downs, the Sonny Styles, but all that money's already tied up on the defense. I'm putting that on Denard Wilson to come in, take the money and do something with it. On the offensive side of the football, they just have to get more explosive. So if Jeremiah Love is there, I would love for them to take him at 5.
Now, would you, if Love was off the board, because there obviously are a ton of rumors that the Titans are highly interested at number 4, so he could come off literally a pick before the Giants have the chance to get him. Would you go defense there? Are you willing to go wide receiver? And if you went defense, who would the player be?
No, I'm not going defense, man. I'm going Carnell Tate then, because Malik Neighbors is coming back from an ACL injury. We don't know what he's going to be like. And I understand, coming back from an ACL injury isn't what it used to be back when, my dad in the 70s, he tore his, and that was pretty much a death sentence when it came to your career. Now these guys they're coming back. The knee that they injured is actually stronger when they come back than it is the knee that's not injured. But we talk about the wheel, those legs. there's a lot that has to be done, or you have to get comfortable with not only your body, but playing at a high level when it comes to the mental part of the game. It's not about jumping up. I'm sure Malik Neighbors doesn't feel anything when he jumps up to go for a football or when he gets back. It's not about the coming up. It's about coming down. And, you're trying to hold on to a football. There's bodies around you. Then you're thinking, all right, is my knee going to hold up? And I look, so it's one of those things. He's going to have to get over that hurdle, and he's going to have to shake that rust off. And I hope he doesn't. I hope he, proves me wrong in that sense. And I'm not doubting the man. I'm just looking at guys that have come back from the ACL injuries and who's had to take a little bit of time to get readjusted to. Because we're not just talking about like just a guy. We're talking about one of the elite receivers in the NFL. So if you bring in a Carnell Tate, there's only a couple programs or college football programs that produce day one ready NFL receivers: LSU, Bama, USC, and the Ohio State. Former Ohio State or Buckeyes receiver coach Brian Hartline, who was a teammate of mine down in Miami, has done a great job getting these guys ready to step into the NFL and to make a name for themselves right away. I feel as though Carnell Tate would have gotten a lot more catches, a lot more production had he not had a guy like Jeremiah Smith on the outside of him. So that goes to show you, if someone's going to outshine a Carnell Tate, he's got to be a freak or like a Randy Moss or a T.O. and a Jeremiah Love. So I think Carnell Tate can come in, step in day one, make plays, draw some attention away from Malik Neighbors as he gets acclimated back on the field. And then when you've got that 1-2 punch, it may end up looking like T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. Again, both on rookie deals.
Yeah, Brandon London, as Malik Neighbors continues to rehab, I'll make sure I send him some Brandon London highlights as inspiration to get him back to try to see if he can reach that level. Not everyone can, but I'll try to see.
He's going to look and be like, that's it? Just 7 catches? It was like a
show off the ring. Show off the ring.
Hey,
it's not even like a full...
Quality over quantity. All right.
That's what I'm talking about. Okay. I appreciate it.
All right. Well, speaking of wide receivers, I guess I already know the answer to this question, but I'll ask it anyway. The Giants have added a couple of receivers: Darnell Mooney, Calvin Austin III. I was going to say, how does that affect or impact their draft plans at all? But apparently not. I guess if Carnell Tate is possibly in the conversation, but does that give the Giants more flexibility on draft day?
No, it gives them more speed and competition. It gives them competition for the speed receiver spot. When you look at an NFL wide receiver room, not all guys the same. Not every skill set is the same. You have your possession guy, you have your short, quick slot guy, and then you have the Malik Neighbor type guy that could, kind of do a little bit of it all. And then you got your speed guy as well. What I believe, or what I feel as though, and there's no knock to these guys, but it's the NFL. You're competing every freaking day. So when you sign a Darnell Mooney and a Calvin Austin, that's to compete with Darius Slayton and Jalen Hyatt. These guys are now competing against each other because this is not outside of Jalen Hyatt. This ain't your regime. Joe Shane traded up and drafted a Jalen Hyatt. But outside of that, John Harbaugh don't know these dudes from a hole in the wall. But Matt Nagy knows Darnell Mooney. Darnell Mooney had his most successful season or productive season under Matt Nagy. John Harbaugh knows who Calvin Austin II is because you play him twice in terms of that Steelers-Ravens matchup. You play him twice each year. So these guys, they know, or they're more familiar with this new regime and coaching staff than Darius Slayton and Jalen Hyatt is. So it's another thing. I believe those two guys come in to be competition when it comes to with the speed receiver roles or spots within that receiver room. And it may not be, and when it could be competing for balls, because Darius Slayton pretty much probably isn't going anywhere with the $16 million that he's owed and due and what that could cost the team in dead money. But you could put guys up and down on the practice squad these days like it's nothing. You can put vets, guys with 80-plus catches on the practice squad. Back when I was on the practice squad, if you were active for 3 or more games, you have no more practice squad eligibility. So I feel like, my back in the day moment that I get mad over, back in my day, when I played with the Miami Dolphins, I wasn't able to be put back or placed back on anyone else's practice squad. So I had the 3 catches in the season, 4 in the AFC wildcard game against John Harbaugh's Baltimore Ravens. But the next year when I got released, I wasn't able to be put back on the practice squad. This isn't a pity story for me or anything like that. But I'm just saying that they'll be competing for a 53-man spot, competing for targets, competing for balls, but 1 to 2 of these guys could get released but put on the practice squad and have an opportunity later on in the season due to injuries or someone just not producing the way they're supposed to produce.
Former Giants wide receiver, digital host for the New York Post, joining us, Brandon London. Brandon, let me talk to you about this Dexter Lawrence situation. Obviously, this was the noise this week out of the Giants headquarters. Tell me from a player perspective, why do players do this, particularly in the offseason, and what's your take on how this is going to play out with Dexter?
I don't think it's the player. I think it's the agent. The agent recognizes that his client should not be the 11th highest paid interior defensive tackle in the NFL. He is a 3-time Pro Bowler. He has been a staple. He's been the face of the franchise at times. And he's been a guy that's been pretty much one of the most consistent Giants over the year. I know he had a down year last year. And, in terms of the accountability from a player's standpoint, he had a good season if your name isn't Dexter Lawrence, but if your name is Dexter Lawrence, which it is, you had a down year, so that leverage, you're looking at it. I'm looking at it like, that leverage may or may not be there because of a down year in production, but at the same time, who are you going to bring in to come in and fill this guy's role? If anyone you bring in is not commanding double teams at the rate that he commands. So you went and got a Tremaine Edmonds because you think maybe a Bobby Okereke lost a step or his production isn't there for his value and what he was getting paid. But in order for a Tremaine Edmonds or maybe a Sonny Styles or whoever it is that they bring in, they re-sign Michael McFadden. In order for these guys to run east-west and these guys not to have, that center and guard kind of double team on that nose, reach that nose and get up to the second level to put a body on that backer, you need a guy like Dexter Lawrence there. My only thing, and, players, we don't look at a guy looking for his contract and we don't speak on it because at one point, everybody's going to deal with the business side of sport within their career. So we don't speak on that. Go get your money, bro. And it's like you're holding out of off-season workouts. You're strongest dude on the team. You don't need to bench press with me, so I did 225 a couple times the other day, but Dexter Lawrence would probably warm up with 225, but what I looked at it as, and maybe this is like, the former player / looking at, the business side of things and the media aspect of it. I kind of look at it as like when Sauce and Garrett got paid in OTAs and all. What did they do? They showed up. They may not have done much, put themselves in position to tweak an ankle or anything like that, but they showed up. So I feel as though like a Dexter Lawrence could have came in, worked out around the team, smiled, kissed the baby, and then when you got out to OTAs, did a drill or two or something to show like, hey, I've lost weight. I'm here. I'm fit. I'm locked in. I'm in this leadership role. You're not only are you getting the sexy Dexy back, you're going to get this production and you're going to get this leadership. And then I feel like, a deal or something could have been made. But that's just me looking, from the outside when it comes to it. Again, never going to tell a guy he shouldn't get his money or how he goes about getting his money. But I looked at it like, maybe they should have done that. But I think, right now he still has a lot of leverage unless someone offers what a king's ransom, what the Cowboys offered for Quinnen Williams. Then I think the Giants kind of, their ears perch up a little bit. But you can't just let that guy go because that's going to be a hard role to fill.
All right, rapid fire here. Just a double dipper. Greg Van Roten, are you interested in a reunion? Should offensive line be on the table for the Giants at 5?
Offensive linemen should be on the table for the Giants at 5. Okay. But if they don't, and they don't like the guy who they may have got in the second round or traded up to in the third, then definitely go back for Van Roten.
All right. Brandon, always great to check in with you, my friend. Thanks for spending a little time with us today. We appreciate it,
you guys having me back on, man. Have a great week.
All right, there he is, Brandon London, former Giants receiver. Got himself a Super Bowl ring, a Grey Cup ring, and doing great work for the New York Post. We love him to death, and we'll certainly have him back again, maybe after the draft, Boy Green, see if some of this stuff comes true. All right, let's take a timeout. All right, we'll come back. I want to break down a couple of his comments, particularly talk about the weapons idea here. So we'll get into that. Why does Brandon feel as strongly as he does? I have some theories on that. We will discuss when we return. Is presented by Northeast Roofing Professionals. Today's video brought to you by our friends at Box Drop Syracuse. We'll take a break. Back right after this.
Considering that we sleep nearly 1/3 of our lives, buying the right mattress is essential. At Box Drop Syracuse Mattress and Sofa Outlet, you'll get a unique experience, one that saves you 30 to 70% off retail prices on top-of-the-line mattresses like Sapphire Sleep. At Box Drop, you'll schedule a mattress fitting appointment and get one-on-one service directly with Paul, the owner. No middleman. Family-owned, huge savings, no-pressure sales designed to save you time and money. And now Box Drop Syracuse has sectional sofas and love seats as well, with prices designed to fit your budget. Box Drop Syracuse Mattress and Sofas. Set up your appointment today at boxdropsyracuse.com.
Finding the right local roofing company can be tricky. You don't want to hire the wrong roofers, or you could end up spending a fortune on repairs. The pros at Northeast Roofing Professionals can ensure your home is protected by a strong and sturdy roof. Locally owned and operated, over 30 years experience, free estimates, and competitively priced. Don't settle for an inexperienced roofing contractor. Turn to Northeast Roofing Professionals. Discounts for military and first responders. Reach out and let them put a sturdy roof over your head. NERPCNY.com. NERPCNY.com.
All right, we are back talking all things Giants. Manchild Show with Boy Green Digital at MC Show Digital. Don't forget to like the video, hit the thumbs up. And if you're not already a subscriber, there's the link on YouTube, youtube.com/at MC Show Digital. Become part of our growing army and subscribe to our channel. It's absolutely free, costs you nothing. And you'll find out, of course, when we're putting out all the great content that we put out each and every week. All right, we're talking New York Giants today. We just had Brandon London, wide receiver, former wide receiver of the Giants, now working as a digital host for the New York Post. Interesting takes by Brandon. I think he's convinced, Boy Green, and it's part of what we talked about on the live show the other day when I was breaking this down with you, is this. If you, in the Giants hierarchy, are a believer that Jackson Dart is going to be the future, that he is a franchise quarterback, then you don't wait another second. You don't wait another minute. You don't wait another day to give that guy everything he possibly needs. And so it's the Giants' job, in my opinion, if they believe that to be true, that whether it's another offensive lineman because they feel like they need to protect him more, it's a superstar running back, assuming that Jeremiah Love would be available for the Giants at 5, which we don't know. But if it was, would that be the number one priority? Or would it be, as Brandon was advocating for as well, a wide receiver, Carnell Tate, or pick whoever off the board that you think is the top receiver, and you give your guy another piece of the puzzle, another reason to have a better season than last year and continue to build on what he is as a quarterback in the NFL because you believe him to be a franchise guy, then maybe he's right. Maybe you do just rely on the new defensive coordinator, rely on the new scheme, rely on some of the players that they have. They have drafted a bunch of players on the defensive side of the ball, including a very high pick last year, right, on defense. So let's work with these guys. Let's get these guys in the right positions in a different scheme and make this whole thing work. They also went out and did pick up a few scraps, dare I say, in the free agent world. So maybe it is the right way to go, but it was certainly an intriguing, interesting way to go. And Brandon was emphatic. Given the choice, he would go take a Tate or a wide receiver over, say, some of these superstar defensive players, which is fascinating to me. Give me your take.
Tip of the cap to former wide receiver Brandon London advocating for offense. Makes a lot of sense there at 5. But no, putting that aside, like, really, it makes a lot of sense, to be honest with you. I mean, that's not where I've been thinking for the Giants, you know, overall, like an overarching thought. It has to be offense. I've not been in my head forcing a square peg in round hole. But if you believe to everything you just said, that Jackson Dart is the guy, and I love Sonny Styles, I love Arvell Reese, I love, David Bailey or Caleb Downs or whatever player you want to go after if you're the Giants, which would probably more so be a Sonny Styles or a Caleb Downs versus those front 7 players, considering what you already have there, is that as much as I love those guys, it's a linebacker, it's a safety, you can find another linebacker safety. Maybe not as good as Sonny Styles, maybe not as good as Caleb Downs, but like if you get Jeremiah Love, that has a direct, immediate impact on Jackson Dart. If you take Carnell Tate, that has a direct and immediate impact on Malik Neighbors and by virtue, Jackson Dart to have him out there. And that I'll tell you this from a Jets fan perspective. Let me bring this in the room for the people. Okay. Sam Darnold, okay, when he was drafted by the Jets in 2018 with the 3rd overall draft choice, one of the big reasons Sam Darnold failed with the Jets is because the Jets failed Sam Darnold. They did not give him protection. They did not give him playmakers. And then there was this overarching William Shakespeare skull in my hand question, to be or not to be. Like, if we had the right stuff around him, would Sam Darnold succeed? And the Jets said, nah, I think it's Sam. We're going to go in a different direction. We're going to trade him, go for Zach Wilson. And it proved to be at Sam Darnold, if he would have had those things, he would have succeeded. If you're the Giants, you don't want the Jackson Dart ride to end. And at some point you're with your priest, you're like, we just didn't do enough for him. You never want that to be the answer to any question. If you did everything and he failed, so be it. Then all right, people miss on picks all the time, but you don't want it to fail because of you. Making sure you take offense at 5, an offensive lineman, which we've talked about, a wide receiver, a running back. You are putting all your chips onto Jackson Dart, and you are giving him the best possible chance to succeed. You can find another linebacker. You can find another safety that's relatively inconsequential. Those are non-premium positions. It's cool to have Kyle Hamilton, right? It's cool to have Roquan Smith or whoever your favorite Fred Warner, your middle linebacker is in the league, but you don't need it. The 49ers haven't won a Super Bowl with Fred Warner. The Ravens haven't won a Super Bowl with Kyle Hamilton. Quarterbacks are the straw that stirs the drink. Get pieces around him. It's a sound strategy for Brandon.
Yeah, I guess it is. It's interesting. Like I said, I just go back to what I said the other day about if you believe Dart's the guy, then you should start building a colossus around him. All right. And sure, do you need to address pieces on defense? Yes. But maybe you're not going to take your most valuable draft choices in this draft and go defense. Maybe you're going to, take a swing at some guys later in the draft. Maybe try to trade down and get yourself some additional picks. Look into free agency and see who you can plug some holes with for the moment as you continue to try to build a colossus on the offensive side around.
Well, let me ask you that real quick, Manchild here. So, I'm going to be honest. I didn't have it on my bingo card that Brandon London was going to be so dismissive as a fellow wide receiver. Darnell Mooney passed the biscuits. Calvin Austin third. Who cares? And I said, does that provide you? I thought it was a softball. Yes, obviously it provides you some luxury because you don't have to take a wide receiver because Darnell Mooney is a capable guy. Calvin Austin doesn't have the resume that Darnell Mooney has, but he's a competent, capable guy to be in the wide receiver room. But Brandon London was like, nothing. No, they're in the room, I guess. I guess there's a pulse on that body.
Just call them competition.
Yeah, basically, which not even competition in the luxury sense of like, ooh, they're intriguing. Like, yeah, they're on the bottom of the roster. Is that your take on these signings?
No, I think, again, look, Brandon is a former wide receiver. Certainly, we know all about the wide receiver diva status and how it's its own little club. So I like to think that I'm a little more objective.
Okay.
No, I think Mooney is a solid NFL receiver, and I think he can really contribute and be a part, an important part of this Giants receiving core this season. And Austin is an intriguing guy. He's a young guy. I still think he's in development. He's had moments, but is he consistent yet? Has he proven that he, can crack a starting lineup and be in a regular rotation of receivers? I'm not sure he's there yet, but he is an interesting developmental piece, and he's an interesting physical specimen too. So I like what he can do. Now, can he do it consistently, and can he become a force as a wide receiver for the Giants as he develops as a pro? But no, I do think, to answer your question, those two guys definitely give the Giants more flexibility to, dare I say, push down their level of priority for receiver and not expend the 5th pick in the draft on a wide receiver. Maybe it's no sooner than that 2nd round pick. maybe it's not even that second round pick. Maybe it's not until the fourth round when the Giants pick again, because as we know, they do not have a third round pick right now. That could change. They could trade Kayvon Thibodeau and pick up a third or something even better than that. They could trade Dexter Lawrence and suddenly have another pick. Who the heck knows? All right.
Yeah.
Or like I said, I think the best scenario for the Giants, in all honesty, is to do anything and everything to trade out of 5, drop into that 8 to 12 area, okay, where you can still get a really, really good defensive player. Maybe it's the starting corner, Mansour Delane. Maybe it's, the other corner.
Jermon McCoy at Tennessee.
There are other really intriguing guys that the Giants could add a very, very meaningful piece, a starter to their defense, and get back that pick in the third so that they could maybe expend that pick on a wide receiver rather than go number 5. I'm at this point, in all honesty, Boy Green, and it's mainly based on who the receivers are in this draft. I'm somewhat against the Giants picking receiver at 5. I don't think it's worthy of the pick.
All right. Well, let me float you a few things before we get out of here. So let's go to that third round pick thing. There's a few things we weren't able to get to with Brandon, so I want to pick your brain about it. Okay. How important is it for you for the Giants to fill that third round void? Because for those who don't know, the Giants do not have a third round pick. So there's going to be a gap from when they pick in the second round and the next time they pick in the fourth round. And a lot's going to happen in that range. We're 9 days out from the draft. How important is it to you to say, man, I really want to find a way to fill that third round void? Or is it like, if it happens, great. If it doesn't, I don't care. How important is it to you?
Very important to me. And every time we have a mock, what am I doing? I'm trying to trade to get it back. Or in the case of our last mock, right, 2.0 that we did, we're going to do another one this coming Monday. It'll be our final one before the NFL draft, right, during draft week. I assure you, I'll probably be sitting in the same thing, trying to figure out how I can trade out of 5 and get some assets. In the last one we did, I was able to get a second round pick. So that's just as good. What I want is the Giants to have at least 3 picks somewhere in the first 3 rounds. Could be 2 firsts and a second. Could be a first and 2 seconds. Could be a first, a second, and a third. But I want to have those 3 picks. It feels to me, again, we go on what the talking heads, those that study the draft, kind of tell us about drafts a lot of times in terms of what we think is out there in terms of meat on the bone and where impact players lie. And the prevailing wind seems to be that there are some really, really good prospects that can be had in the second and third rounds of this draft that will be impactful. All right. More impactful than guys inevitably in the fourth and beyond. Okay. Sometimes we have incredibly deep drafts. The talking heads out there, the experts, so to speak, on this say the meat and potatoes of this draft might be right there in that kind of second, third round world, maybe into the early fourth. And so I don't want to miss out on the opportunity to get another impact player, a guy that could potentially be a starter on my roster if I can get one somewhere in that, second, third round thing. And the Giants don't have that third round pick. So, let's try to see if we can get it back somehow, some way. And we do have some commodities that if they decide they're going to part with, whether it just be financial reasons, whether it just be we don't need this player in this particular position anymore because we have enough of these guys, whatever it is, the Giants need to make those hard decisions, and it would be better if they make those decisions before this year's draft as they try to put a better roster together for the 2026-27 season.
All right, Lurch, I got 2 more things on my menu item list I want to get to you. This next one may be the quickest item I've ever given you, and you answer and we move on immediately. Okay. Your Giants added another arm to the bullpen. Brandon Allen, does that move the needle or really do anything for you whatsoever?
Nothing whatsoever. I mean, you got to have backup quarterbacks. You got to have third-string quarterbacks. You got to have bodies in the room. Okay. Right now, look, the Giants have a starting quarterback, and they have an excellent backup quarterback. A lot of people in this league would like to have Jameis Winston sitting in the wings just in case. Sure. So the Giants' quarterback room is in excellent shape. Anything else they add is just gravy. It's just, another practice player, another guy in the room, another mind, perhaps, to help break down opposing defenses and point out weaknesses. But other than that, no big deal. And yes, his last name might be Allen, but he's not the correct Allen. Okay? There's only one correct Allen in this league right now that plays quarterback, and he plays for the Buffalo Bills.
The Kyle Allen?
No.
Oh, he plays for the Buffalo Bills, and his last name does happen to be Allen. That's Josh Allen. Okay. Yes. All right. Here's the one that's a little bit more interesting. I'll throw it out here and put it up here as the last one here. The New York Giants hosted veteran defensive tackle DJ Reader on a visit this week. he has previously visited with the Baltimore Ravens. So some more Harbaugh Ravens Giants battles, apparently for the same guy. Yeah. And when the Ravens hosted DJ Reader, the talk around town is that the Ravens and Reader could have a wink, wink, hey, after the draft is over, compensatory pick selection ends. So you can sign anyone you want after the draft, and it won't affect the comp pick formula. So, hey, let's meet. Are you interested? We're interested. Okay, after the draft, let's circle back, and we could maybe make a deal. Now, the Giants are getting into this dance potentially, and they could say, actually, before you go to Baltimore, maybe you want to come up here with Giants land. So my question is sort of multifaceted here. First off, does this have any impact whatsoever on the Dexter Lawrence thing? Do you think the Giants view, DJ Reed and Dexter Lawrence would be cool together? Is this hey, just in case something crazy happens with Dexter Lawrence, we have another possibility? What does your gut say here on the DJ Reader thing? Because sometimes moves mean something beyond what the move appears on the surface.
Yeah, I know. Well, I'd like to think it's the latter. I'd like to think that, we have talked before this Dexter Lawrence thing even surfaced, his unhappiness, his, asking essentially, requesting a trade.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. The thought and the prevailing wind was that the Giants have a hole to fill in the middle of that defensive line, and they need somebody next to Dexter who can complement Dexter.
Yeah.
And I'd like to believe that is the case with Reader or anybody else that they've looked at so far during this offseason. Period. End of story. It's a hole that needs to be filled. If they could go fill it through free agency and get that at a reasonable price, they have accomplished something fantastic here for Giants football for this upcoming season, and have solved another problem that they won't have to go solve and expend a draft pick on. Okay, so that's what I'd like to believe. But, with the recent developments, it certainly makes you pause for a moment to say, if they really start crunching numbers here, and again, look at positional value, okay, and what it is that Dexter Lawrence is going to command, because before last season, he was rated as the number one defensive interior lineman. Therefore, he should be paid the most. All right. And you can look up what that rate is, but I know it's insane. It's in the over 20 million.
It's over 30. Chris Jones is the highest at 31 million per year.
Okay. So $31 million a year right now is the annual going rate for the top defensive interior line.
That's correct.
Now, Dexter did not have a season last year. That if we looked at it now, that I don't think we could rate him number one. I think someone else is number one now. But
yes,
Dexter still, despite his lackluster 2025 season, is still absolutely in the conversation for number 2, number 3, number 4, and certainly no lower than number 5. Okay, he's in the top 5. He might be number 2. He might be number 3. Okay. But what's the difference? He's one of the best guys at his position in the game, despite coming off the off year. Okay, a year which, by the way, he was coming off an injury. All right, and to a certain extent, it appears he never really maybe got into the kinds of shape that Dexter Lawrence typically gets into entering a season. He was almost like he was getting conditioned during the season, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And he was playing around a lot of bad guys, too. The Giants defense did not perform very well last year, including guys that they did draft, like Abdul Carter. So the stress was even greater on Dexter Lawrence. Okay, so all of that in the blender. And the fact of the matter is that the Giants are going to have to pay Dexter Lawrence if they renegotiate a contract with him, and they're willing to do that. They have 2 more years of control, and they don't have to. Okay, but then they're dealing with an unhappy guy potentially for the next 2 years. Is he going to sit out of camp? Is he going to do other things that are going to irritate everything and slow down the process? No team really wants to be dealing with that. So if they're going to pay him, then he's going to get paid somewhere in the neighborhood of $30 million a year. Okay?
Are you willing to do that, Lurch?
Well, that's the question. Am I willing to do it? It ain't my money. Okay?
Well, I guess.
But I can tell you that when I found out how insane the center from Baltimore, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Tyler Linderbaum, who's now with Vegas. Yeah.
Tyler Linderbaum, who before the offseason started, and when we kind of had the list of free agents, the Giants, go, pay.
Harbaugh connection, right, yeah.
But I thought Linderbaum was going to go for, closer to $20 million, all right? And as it turned out, he went closer to $30 million. Okay?
Yeah, I think he got 27, yeah.
Yeah, so whoa, wait a minute. I love Tyler Linderbaum. In his prime, all pro already, polished guy, good citizen.
Always healthy. Yeah, that too. Yeah.
Yada. All right. But what? He's a center.
Yeah.
And I'm going to pay him $27 a year. Uh-oh. That means I got to pay this guy less. I got to pay this guy less. I got to play a young guy over here. Whoa. Like, do I want to upset my entire apple cart because I can have one really, really good guy in the middle of my offensive line in the case of Linderbaum? And now we're doing the same thing here with Sexy Dexy, saying, all right, we're going to invest 30 or more in a defensive interior lineman. I don't know. Again, edge guys are more important. Corners are more important. Tackling linebackers could arguably at times be more important. Are you willing to delve out that kind of money? And so back to your original question, this has kind of gone full circle. Maybe there is some there to the Giants looking at other guys and saying there may be a more reasonable answer to this because we know we're going to have to pay for these things. So are you willing again to pay interior linemen? I remember a few years back when the Giants paid I always forget his name, the former Jet. He was a high draft pick. Gosh.
Leonard Williams,
thank you. Gosh, just the commonness of his name just drives me crazy. All right. Williams is just a very popular name in the NFL.
Yeah.
So, Leonard Williams, when that was going down, I was like, I don't know, man. You going to pay that guy? I had the same feelings about, like I did with Jamal Adams, the safety for the Jets that we talked about before. Like, are you going to pay that guy in that position, that kind of money? And the Giants did. Gave him a fat, I think it was a 3-year contract, gave him a very fat contract.
So. Yes.
And I was like, oh boy, is this guy really produced at the level that we're willing to give? And then he actually played well. Well on that contract. I'd like to say, maybe not in terms of wins and losses, but I honestly think that Leonard Williams during the bulk of that contract was actually probably worth the money. He was one of the best guys doing that job, and he got to play alongside Dexter Lawrence, and the two of them were a force for a bit. It was like, whoa, Giants have one of maybe the best interior defensive line pieces in the game. That's kind of a nice thing to have when you have the best of something in football. That's always a good thing. You have the best quarterback, best running back, best receiving core, whatever it is. So I kind of like that. I don't know. This is getting tricky. It's getting tricky when we start talking about $30 million a year for a singular guy who had a half a sack last year.
Right. And he's getting older. He's not ancient, but you're paying him not for what he did yesterday. You're paying him for what he could do tomorrow. So that just has to.
What is he, 28? I mean, I should have checked.
Yeah, 28, and I believe he turns 29 during the season. So
that's fine with me. Come on. That's young. That's still. Yeah. That's still prime of your football career. So
he's 28. He turns 29 during the season. So you're okay if he has 2 years left on his deal. You're cool adding 2 or 3 more years to his deal. That's taking him to
maybe
33.
2, and it's a whole new renegotiation, and in the end, it's a 4-year. You've got him for the next 4 years, and then it's time to probably cut bait or look at it again at a different price. But no, I would be comfortable with that. But again, this is a question for the Giants and Joe Shane and probably John Harbaugh and Don Aponte mostly. That. Do we want to invest that kind of money in this position? This is what the NFL is these days, boy. It is no longer just sign whoever you want, just keep your guys. It's just not. There are budget issues that have to be reckoned with every single offseason going into every single season, and you have to carefully plan these things in order to make sure that they fly the right way. So there you have it. I just, I think there's thinking to be done here. But honestly, in terms of the football product, I don't really think the Giants in their current condition can afford to let Dexter Lawrence walk or trade him, unless the trade was to get back another version of Dexter Lawrence and some pieces.
Which seems unlikely.
So, all right. We'll get a guy that maybe isn't one of the top 2 or 3 in the league, all right, but is in the top 7 in the league. So there's that position filled, and we get a draft commodity, another player, something else for the future that we can use in another spot. And we don't have to pay Dexter the crazy money that he's asking for. We pay this guy much more reasonable money for that particular position on the football field.
Which I imagine is going to
He got down
which I imagine is going to be difficult because if I'm a team, I'm not rushing. Dexter Lawrence coming off a bad year, and he wants to get buco bucks. That affects my trade price if wanted to get him. So I don't know if that deal's possible. And if the Giants trade Dexter Lawrence, to your point, that's the opposite Harbaugh message. We're trying to get to the playoffs. We're trying to do things immediately. Dexter Lawrence, you just said you think he's one of the best defensive tackles in football. I think most people would agree. You trade that guy away, and you're inherently going to get worse. And okay, if you get lottery tickets, so the draft picks, there's no guarantee guarantee those are going to work out. So yeah, this is the first, again, it's adversity is inevitable in football. It's going to come in forms and fashions. Trade requests, injuries, all kinds of things are going to smack you in the face. John Harbaugh, the head coach of the New York Football Giants, has been smacked in the face with adversity. How does he handle it? It'll be curious to watch.
This is bad timing for both Lawrence and the Giants. On the Lawrence front, he's got his agent out there trumpeting for a raise, and he didn't have the kind of year that deserves a raise. Problem number one. Okay.
Well, he did ask for a raise last year. The Giants basically told him to pack it.
And
he was coming off a great year.
I know. And that's where you need the agent to go to work, is coming off the good year and getting that thing done before anything turns the other way. Now
they only got a sweetener.
Bad year.
Yeah.
And now they're trying to demand more money and be paid among the top guys when you don't have a top guy season. And then to make matters worse, like I said, bad for the Giants too, because not only will they either have to probably pay him to keep him, at least the long term.
You can't do nothing. I don't imagine Giants are like, hey, buddy, that's a contract. It is what it is. We're not moving you, and that's it. Like, I don't think that's an option anymore with a public trade request. I think we're in a fork in the road. It's either figure out a new deal to pay him and say, hey, you're our guy, or trade him. I don't think I'm sure it'll figure itself out. I don't think that's an option anymore.
Not a good option. I totally agree with you. And the Giants, not in a good situation because, as you just discussed, his trade value is not great right now coming off of that subpar year. Wow. So now the Giants would be forced to take less for a guy that they might think is the best or second best or third best interior defensive lineman in football. But now we're going to deal him as like he's the 10th best guy. Ooh.
Right.
Because
why would you want to do that if you're the Giants?
Yeah.
Right.
Ooh. So it's ugly. And it's, I don't know. I mean, Dexter's agent should have got Dexter that money last year. You know what Dexter needs? To hire Kirk Cousins' agent. That's what he needs.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody needs to hire Kirk
Cousins'
agent.
I want to hire Kirk Cousins' agent.
That damn guy, no matter what. I mean, even in old age, he's still getting contracts with mega bucks and all kinds of nice guarantees and incentives that continue to keep him as one of the highest paid quarterbacks in football. And yet none of us would list him even probably in our top 7 quarterbacks. Maybe, I don't know, even we go 10. I don't think we go top 10 these days, at least these days, for Kirk Cousins. And yet, what does that guy get paid every year? Top 5 quarterback money every bleeping year. He has a great agent. That's what you hire agents for, so that they do the job for you and keep you at the top of the pay scale at all times. And I don't know. Maybe Dexter should rethink his agent because he should have gotten that money before last year came, and they didn't. And now they're in this weird place where neither side has a ton of leverage, but I'd argue the Giants have more leverage because they've got 2 more years of control.
2 years, yeah, right.
So, you renegotiate this early in a contract, you don't really have the kind of leverage, especially if you haven't done wow things to make your team go, we can't lose this guy no matter what. Did you see what he did last year? Holy crap, we got to have him on the field.
I think the Giants have more leverage, but I think the leverage Lawrence thinks he has is, hey, Harbaugh, you're new around these parts. Yep. I'm Dexter Lawrence. The fans wear my jerseys in the crowd. You're going to tell them, hey, we're not going to pay that guy. Oh, that's the message you're going to send walking in the door? Okay, Harbaugh, if that's what you want to do, I don't mind holding out. I don't mind losing some off-season workout bonuses. That's fine with me because your beautiful honeymoon is going to start running out of dates if you're treating me like that. So, again, that's the leverage. If he wants to go full toxic, he could, and we already put one step in that direction with this public trade request. Man, it's going to be fascinating to watch.
I said that the other day in our live show when we were talking about it. I said the last thing John Harbaugh needs right now is to get rid of Dexter Lawrence when he already needs another guy in the middle of that line. Like to create. We've got to
replace 2 guys.
Kind of a weakness, and now we're going to make it a massive hole. They don't have a hole right now; they have a weakness, and they need to figure out someone alongside Dexter that will help Dexter try and get those pass rushers going a little bit better than they were going last year. And we might have something here in the defensive front of this team. It might be one of the better defensive fronts in all of the NFL. It has that potential. You lose Dexter, and now you got answers. You got to solve problems. You got problems you got to solve right away. So Harbaugh doesn't want to be in that. He's got enough problems. So I don't know. This is a tricky one. How they're going to get out of this sticky situation here, sticky wicket.
For sure, but I do want to just give another shout out to Brandon London. It's been cool to connect the dots with Brandon over here on the MC Show digital channel, which has been a lot of fun. I've done stuff with him on the digital New York Post side when I'm doing some Jet stuff with him. So it's great to have him on, and to have him on before the draft, spectacular. So big shout out to Brandon.
Yeah, Brandon and I, we don't always agree on things, but we have some common ground here, and I think that common ground goes back to.
Did you both play wide receiver?
No, we did not. No.
Super Bowl champions?
No. Don't be a wise guy. The common ground is if we both believe that Jackson Dart has the potential to be franchise, and therefore, if you believe that, then you should be doing everything in your power to put serious weaponry around him to make him better this year than he even was last year, better the following year than he is this year. You just have to build on this thing because we all know, you know it more than anyone as a Jet fan, Boy Green. The QB is the piece. Without the QB, you have nothing. Period. End of story. I don't care if you have a fabulous defense. I don't care if you have all kinds of weapons. If the QB stinks, you stink. End of story. End of debate. So the Giants may have something here. They may have caught lightning in a bottle late in the first round last year. Let's find out by giving this guy all the pieces he needs. See what this do. We'll take this baby out for a spin, so to speak. Yeah. So that might be the way to go here for John Harbaugh and company. So we'll see. I mean, there's just so much out there about how Harbaugh has built teams in the past. What are the things that are important to him? A lot of talk about he's a hog molly guy. He lives in, build those lines up,
Yes.
And I agree philosophically with some of that stuff. But, there's also these nice little toys, that are a part of this draft. So is he going to pick himself a toy or is he going to pick himself a rock? Pet rock. We'll just use the pet rock. Put him right there on the offensive,
good times
line, versus
that was a good era.
Let's get the remote control, Lamborghini,
the toy. Yeah.
Let's whip it around the living room. It's kind of what this feels like to me for the Giants coming into this draft. So weird analogy, I know, but nonetheless. All right. So like you said, thanks again to Brandon London. It's our Inside the Giants segment. Thanks to everybody for watching. Don't forget to hit that like button and obviously subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. YouTube.com/@MCShowDigital. We'll see you again soon, folks. Survivor live show on Wednesday night. We're back live on the air Wednesday at 11. We will see you then. Take care.